Poštovani gledalci, dobrodošli u još jedno izdanje emisije Granice Istoka. Ja sam Harun Karčić. Važnost Sueskog kanala u globalnoj trgovini ponovno je uočen nedavno kada je veliki teretni brod zbog jakih vjetrova zaglavio u kanalu i blokirao nekoliko stotina brodova iz oba smjera. Proizvodi iz Azije i nafta sa Bliskog Istoka na putu prema Europi su kasnili i obratno. Penali zbog kašnjenja i troškovi osiguranja brodova i goriva iznosili su $100 milijuna. O važnosti Sueskog kanala kroz historiju, geopolitiku i ekonomiju analiziramo u ovom izdanju emisije. Govorimo i o osjetljivosti drugih strateških moreuza u globalnoj politici. Prije razgovora sa našim gostima pogledajmo uvodni prilog. Zbog čega je važan Sueski kanal? To je prokopan kanal dugačak 193 km između Sredozemnog i Crvenog mora. Najbliža je pomorska veza između zapadne i istočne hemisfere te predstavlja najvažniji plovni put za međunarodnu pomorsku trgovinu. Bilo je više ideja i projekata u prošlosti. U vrijeme faraona manji vještački kanali su spajali rijeku Nil sa Crvenim morem. Ipak, Sueski kanal u ovoj formi osmislio je francuski biznismen Ferdinand de Lesseps, a od egipatske vlade je dobio koncesiju za izgradnju kanala 1854. godine. U zamjenu za koncesiju, egipatska vlada je dobila 44% vlasništva nad kanalom. Gotovo 1,5 milijuna Egipćana je radilo na prokopavanju kanala od 1859. do 1869. godine pretežno manuelnim radom i bez pomoći teške mašinerije. Njih 100.000 je umrlo, koliko zbog teških uvjeta rada, toliko i zbog zaraznih bolesti. Iako je Francuska predvodila izgradnju kanala, Velika Britanija je preuzela potpunu kontrolu nakon što je okupirala Egipat 1882. godine. London je želio kontrolu nad kanalom kako bi mogao nesmetano prevoziti robu i sirovine iz azijskih kolonija, naročito Indije, prema Europi. Razlog tada, kao i danas, jeste što Sueski kanal drastično skraćuje put iz Azije prema Europi. Primjera radi, put iz zaljeva do sjeverne Europe prostirao bi se na 21.000 km oko afričkog kontinenta i trajao bi 24 dana. Kroz Sueski kanal skraćuje se na 12.000 km i 14 dana plovidbe. Ne želeći da stranci upravljaju Sueskim kanalom i ubiru prihode, egipatski predsjednik Džemal Abdel Nasser je 1952. godine izvršio vojni udar, protjerao britansku vojsku iz strane firme i nacionalizirao kanal. Zatim, 1956. godine Francuska, Velika Britanija i Izrael su izvršile invaziju Egipta i preuzele kontrolu nad kanalom. Egipat ga je blokirao tako što je potonuo 40 brodova i blokirao međunarodnu trgovinu. Kanal je potom ponovno zatvoren 1967. godine nakon Arapsko-Izraelskog rata, da bi bio ponovo otvoren tek 1975. godine. Danas, dnevni prosjek brodova koji prođu kanal je 50. Kanalom prođe 30% svih teretnih brodova u svijetu, 12% ukupne svjetske trgovine, 10% ukupne sirove i prerađene nafte i čak trećina ukapljenog plina koju Velika Britanija uvozi iz Katara. Drugim riječima, ako samo jedan brod blokira prolaz, stvara se globalna pometnja. Više o historijskom značaju Sueskog kanala pojašnjava nam Joel Beinin, profesor emeritus na Stanford Univerzitetu u Americi. Professor, hello and welcome to the Al Jazeera Balkans channel. Now, there have been numerous geopolitical struggles over the Suez Canal for the past 150 years. Now, could you explain to our viewers in the Balkans who were the major foreign powers vying for influence and control over the canal, and how much influence do foreign countries have over the canal today?
So in the beginning, in the 19th century, the Suez Canal was a French project, and the French undertook that project in part to circumvent a British effort to create a land route between Egypt and India that would cross the Sinai Peninsula. So Ferdinand de Lesseps, who had been in the French Foreign Service but was at this point acting as a private individual, received a concession from the governor of Egypt, Said, to build the canal. So the canal was a result initially of French-British imperial rivalry for supremacy in the region. The British ended that struggle with a decisive win in two ways. One, when the Egyptian government went bankrupt, partly because it was compelled to buy a large number of shares in the Suez Canal Company and then sell them at below market rates to the British government. And second, because in 1882, Britain invaded Egypt and simply remained there until 1956. So from 1882 until 1956, the British were the preeminent power in Egypt, and therefore also effectively controlled the Suez Canal.
Now, how important was the canal for the British Empire in terms of transporting raw materials from India back to the United Kingdom?
In the days of the height of the British Empire, the canal was absolutely vital. It cut the communications time between London and Bombay by over 2 weeks. It was the quickest and the cheapest way to both deliver mail and other messages, and also to transport raw material. Indian cotton would have been particularly important in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The canal is a little bit less important in that respect these days.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of earnings, how important is the canal for the Egyptian economy, and how important is it today in terms of geopolitical prestige?
So today, the canal, about 10% of global maritime traffic passes through the Suez Canal, rather less than was the case in its heyday. That traffic brought to the Egyptian government last year $5.61 billion. That's not at all a small number, but it's considerably smaller than what the Egyptian government itself projected when it enlarged the canal in 2014-2015 and created a parallel lane that would allow traffic to flow in two directions for most of the length of the canal. At that point, the Egyptian government projected that increased income revenue from the canal would reach over $13 billion a year. So
why hasn't it reached such high numbers? Why did it not materialize?
The reason is very simple, and it was predicted already in 2014, which is that the Egyptian government's projection was based on a rate of increase in global trade, which was simply unrealistic. There simply isn't as much global trade today as would be required to raise the Egyptian government's revenue to that level.
Now, what have the ramifications been of the recent clogging of the canal by the extra-large cargo ship on international shipping lanes? I mean, and what does it tell us about the extent of which countries are dependent on each other in the global economy?
So, of course, this accident was extremely disruptive. Over 300 ships were queued at the north and south entrances to the canal to pass through. The delay cost hundreds of millions of dollars in insurance and delayed delivery penalties. And of course, it's easy to see that, yes, the canal is a vital link in global trade. But it's also the case that the largest ships, the very large and ultra-large tankers, already couldn't pass through the Suez Canal. So a fully laden ultra-large or very large oil tanker from, say, the Persian Gulf, traveling to Rotterdam, would take the route around the Cape of Good Hope in any case, because it simply can't pass through the canal. The only way it can do that would be to pump part of the oil out and then put it through the Suez Mediterranean pipeline, which has been done.
Well, is it because it's too heavy to pass through the canal? Is the canal too shallow for these super large and extra large crude carriers?
Exactly. It's not the length of the ship that's the problem, but it's the depth of the draft, and the canal simply isn't deep enough to accommodate that.
Now, when you compare the Suez Canal to other man-made and natural canals around the world, how strategically important How would you rate the Suez Canal?
It's roughly equivalent to the Panama Canal, which links the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. And the Panama Canal, by the way, has some of the same logistical issues as the Suez Canal. It can't accommodate the ultra large and very large super tankers. And much of the shipping through the Panama Canal has gone instead to ports in the Western United States and across the United States by air or by train to save time.
Now, has the Suez Canal been used in the past for, at times of war, for military purposes?
So international treaties bar warships from the Suez Canal. But when Egypt was attacked in 1956 by France, the United Kingdom, and Israel, as a retaliation for Egypt having nationalized the Suez Canal, Egypt sunk about 50 ships in the Suez Canal to block passage. And for 8 months, the canal was closed. The same thing happened in June of 1967 when Israel attacked Egypt, and Egypt sank ships in the canal and created other obstructions, and that kept the canal closed until after an Egyptian-Israeli peace process resulted in the restoration of the canal in 1975. So the canal on that occasion was closed for 8 years.
Now, does the recent Suez crisis, if you will, demonstrate that the Middle East will continue to retain its vital strategic importance even after oil runs out?
First, there is a question of how soon the world will transition to fossil-free energy, and it's not clear. So let's say for the next 10 to 20 years, the canal will probably continue to be quite important. After that, it's a question of what the economy, what the political economy of the Arab Gulf countries will be like. It's already the case that a regional capitalist class is in formation in the Arab Gulf countries, which used the capital that was accumulated through sale of oil and natural gas, but is now also investing in steel, aluminum, building construction, and so on. And Dubai is one of the largest transit ports in the world. Dubai, which is the main port of the United Arab Emirates in the Gulf. So depending on what happens to the in the future to the port of Dubai, the canal may very well be of perhaps not as great importance as it is now, but certainly of substantial importance.
Right. Professor Beinin, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me.
Poštovani gledaoci, bio je to Joel Beinin, profesor emeritus na Stanford Univerzitetu u Americi. Međunarodna pomorska trgovina je veoma razvijena, brza, ali i povoljna opcija mnogim kompanijama. Ipak, u slučaju blokade kakva se nedavno dogodila u Suezkom kanalu, troškovi prijevoza mogu neočekivano porasti. Više detalja u nastavku. Detaljnije o geopolitičkoj važnosti Sueskog kanala pojašnjava nam Cyril Widdershoven, stručnjak za Bliski Istok iz Holandije. Mr. Cyril, hello and welcome to the Al Jazeera Balkans channel. Now, let me start by asking you, how could a huge vessel such as the Ever Given get grounded passing through the Suez Canal?
According to the official assessments, the main issue is said to be a strong wind, and if you look at how the ship looks, it's extremely high. So the wind in that area is sometimes extremely strong, and other ships also had that issue. So most probably when the captain of the ship tried to navigate against the wind, certain human errors were made, and then it's extremely hard to keep a ship of around 400 meters, so 4 times a football field, to keep that in line to transfer through a rather small Suez area.
So in terms of maritime security, just how vulnerable is the Suez Canal? I mean, the blocking of the canal by a giant cargo ship is clearly a case in point, but are accidents as frequent as they are in the Bosphorus Straits?
You can say it's almost the same, according to Lloyd's and to others. Between 2012 and 2019, 75 ships had an accident in the Suez Canal. 25% of the ships were the same type as the Evergreen, so it's more or less 7 ships each year that get into an issue in transferring through the Suez Canal, and of course to mitigate the risk of this, that it's being blocked. Egypt has expanded the Suez Canal and has dug a second route, but of course the accident has happened in the only area where there is only one option. On the other, the main route of the Suez Canal, it already is 2 routes. So when one route is being blocked, the other route can still be used, but as the wet von Murphy is stating, when things can go wrong, they will go wrong. And when they go wrong, it's always at the only area in the canal that did not yet have the option of 2 shipping lanes.
Now, the Egyptian government initially hoped that by expanding the canal, it will help them generate more profits in the future. Has this been materialized? Have they achieved what they hoped to achieve?
The revenues have gone up. It is not yet as much as the initial plans were saying. Of course, 2020 did not help, because global trade was blocked. So also loads of shipping. Initially, the idea is still that the overall revenues will go up. However, when revenues are normally going up, that means this is due to either more ships or more fees per ship. So what ship owners then do is increase the size of the vessels, so the costs are not going up as much as maybe the Suez Canal Authority were hoping for yet. But in the end, global trade will increase. The amount of ships will also increase. So somewhere there could be a higher revenue stream than was there before the expansion.
Now, we know that Egypt has in the past utilized the Suez Canal for military purposes by, for example, purposely sinking 40 ships during the 1956 Suez Crisis. This has also been repeated during the 1967 war as well as during the 1973 Arab-Israeli war.
The Suez Canal has open maritime traffic option. So all ships from all countries should be able to transfer through the Suez Canal. So also Russian, American, Turkish, Chinese, all ships, including Iranian. So there is always a potential issue with security, because if Egypt or somebody else would be able to block the Suez Canal, military operations of every single NATO member, plus China, plus Russia, plus Turkey, or the Arab states is being blocked. So security in East Med, in the Mediterranean, in the Red Sea, but also in the Gulf, the Indian Ocean, or let's say there's an issue in the South China Sea, then if the US or NATO or somebody else would like to bring their naval forces to Asia, they will need to transfer either via the Suez Canal or to take the long route via Cape of Good Hope, so South Africa, which is between 10 to 15 days longer than taking the Suez Canal. Plus, keep in mind, for the Middle East, in the end, loads of the traffic that is going via the Suez Canal is food. So when this is blocked, there could be an urgent food crisis in Saudi or in the UAE or in Qatar.
Mr. Cyril, it's a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time once again.
Okay, thank you.
Blokada Sueskog kanala ponovno je pokazala ranjivost strateških moreuza i transportnih uskih grla za međunarodnu trgovinu. Ova situacija pokazuje da će Bliski Istok i nakon nestanka nafte i dalje zadržati svoju stratešku važnost, jer će biti jedina prečica trgovini iz Europe prema Africi i Aziji. Poštovani gledaoci, bilo je to sve u ovom izdanju emisije Granice Istoka. Ako ste propustili bilo koji dio, emisiju možete pogledati i na našoj web stranici balkans.aljazeera.net. Hvala na pažnji.